Hey guys, good afternoon. It is Sunday, November 23rd, 2025. We are 4 days away from Thanksgiving and 5 days away from Black Friday. But yes, it is Sunday, November 23rd, 2025. It is 2:10 p.m. as I am recording this. 55 degrees outside and sunny under partly cloudy skies if you're into weather and all that. Now, before we get into this review, because yes, we are continuing on with the Stripes and Links story. Before we get into it, though, I'd like to ask you to do me a solid favor, and that's like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Also, guys, if you'd like to do me a solid favor, and that is go into the description and find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube, you can do so. You can find me at all your favorite podcast affiliates like iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and to an extent, SiriusXM. Also, guys, you can find me at other video outlets like Rumble.com, Odyssey.com, Dailymotion.com, and Vimeo. Also, guys, you can find me at Patreon.com at BWRoses. Support me there. I do have plans for that. And also, guys, you can find me at DeviantArt at DeviantArt.com at BVW1979 and InkMoney.net at BWRoses. You can also support me through Venmo and Cash App. And, ladies and gentlemen, I do have social media. You can find me at TikTok. You can find me at Blue Sky and Twitter, aka X, as well. Also, guys, I have a couple of online stores. I have a Fourth Wall store and a Teespring store. The Fourth Wall store link is at the top, and the Teespring store is at the bottom. Check those places out for items you can't get anywhere else. If, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get something for yourself or a family member. And hold on for a second. I've got a stinking fly I got to kill here. Hold on. Well, it looked like I was going to kill him. Looks like he flew off. Let me check. But yeah, I'm probably going to have to pause in a minute to kill a stinking fly. But anyway, yeah, you can go to those outlets, like I said, to get items you can't get anywhere else. And also, guys, if you want to do so, you can also chime in the live chat during this video premiere, as well as donate in the super chats. If you want to do that, super chats will be open. And you can comment in the comment section on both occasions of the video premiere and afterwards. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to still donate, help out if you will, but you can't be here in time for the video premiere, you can still do so through the super thanks option. But with that said, and also guys, I'm going to add this in here as well. I am going to list some items down here to some affiliated programs. If you want to click on some of those things, check them out. It helps the store that I'm listing the items from. It helps them out, and it helps me out as well. So if you want to do that as well, that's up to you. Now, with that said, let's get into the review of page 79. It looks like we're kind of in the home stretch of the story, of the overall story arc. We're in the home stretch here. Basically, we're back at the hotel with Tina and Zigzag. And yeah, Zigzag basically is exhausted. If you will. She is exhausted from that day's events because, you know, she went, as we know, for the past month, maybe month and a half, storyline-wise, she was visiting the father. Now, you know, for us, the readers, you know, it was about a month and a half, or felt longer, but in continuity of the story, it was just one whole day, but it was basically very exhausting for her because basically, this was something that she knew she had to face. She had to face this fear. She had to conquer this fear, known as her scumbag of a father. And basically, she basically went in there guns blazing. That's basically as she interprets it here in the story. She went in there guns blazing, ready to do whatever, she had to do to finally put this to rest, to finally, end this darkness that hangs over her, put an end to it, destroy it, be rid of it, and all that. She was just ready to go in guns a-blazing. But then when she saw her father, things changed. They changed, well, I wouldn't say significantly, but they changed to a point that when she saw her father, she's like, yeah, I'm not going to lay my hands on you. You're not worth it. You're not worth it. I'm not going to lay my hands on you and all that. And basically, she just, decided to leave. She just decided to leave after that because, after, she got a lot of things off her chest. she decided to leave and just, be done with him, period, and all that. But she did as we saw throughout the run, and I did an overview and talked about. She did let a lot of her feelings come out finally about what he's put her and her family through throughout his existence before he landed, behind bars. But anyway, the way the story goes, is very simple, as you'll probably see on the page. But the way the story goes is like this: they're back at the hotel, and Zigzag's sitting on the bed, head down a little bit, arms kind of like in her lap, if you will, kind of downwards, and she just sighs a little bit. She goes, "This is Zigzag. This is how it starts out." She goes, "Ugh, this has been a day." Tina then asks her, "You gonna be okay?" And Zigzag's response is, I think so." Then Zigzag lays down on the bed while talking to Tina, and she basically tells her, "My father has been this shadow hanging over me my whole life. This dark, this dark influence that needed to be overcome." And she continues on. She says, "I went in there front-loaded with years of built-up rage, fully prepared to beat him to death if the right opportunity came up. But once I was face to face, all I could see was this broken down old skunk trying to act bigger and badder than he really is. After that I just sort of," and then Tina kind of tries to chime in, fill in that gap when, Zigzag's like, "After that I just sort of," and then Tina, like I said, she tries to chime in by saying, "Felt sorry for him." And then Zigzag's response immediately after that is, "What? Oh, hell no. He deserves every terrible thing that's happened to him. But I just didn't feel like adding onto it anymore." And then she closed out in the final panel by saying, "I looked at him and thought, I'm done living with this drama. You're not worth it anymore." And then she asked Tina, "Is that maturity?" And Tina's like, "It might be." And that's kind of how they close out the whole visitation with the father in this kind of like epilogue page that comes out basically a week before Thanksgiving. Now I don't know if Eric's going to put out another page before then. He might, and it might be a Thanksgiving related page with Zigzag, having a family meal, a get together with the family, including the mom. So I could see him putting that into circulation to kind of fill the gap that would be missed because of the holiday this week. So I could see that potentially coming. But I do like this little epilogue here with Tina and her. I do like the fact that Zigzag is admitting that, she went in there initially, guns, like I said earlier, guns blazing, fully, front loaded, as she puts it, kind of like guns loaded, if you will, just waiting for the opportunity to do what she had been building up to doing for a long time, and that's beat this skunk, if you will, this old scumbag of a skunk, to death. But yet, when she saw him, she realized, he's not worth it. That all she's seeing now is a shell of somebody she once feared, and a shell of somebody that, in reality, is not as threatening as he seems to be or used to be, or basically one of the two, depending on how you look at it. But basically, she saw, she saw this broken, as she puts it, this broken down version of a father, and realized, you're not worth laying my hands on. You're not worth dirtying my hands or bloodying my hands on. You're not just. She's basically like, look, you're just. She looks at him, and she's just like, you are pathetic. You have become such a pathetic shell of your former self that you're not even worth laying a pinky on. That's how she viewed him. And, I loved how Tina's kind of like, chiming in by saying, "What, you felt sorry for him?" And, Zigzag's response is, "No, I didn't feel sorry for his sorry ass. No, I didn't." Her coming out and saying, immediately responding by saying to Tina, because when she's like, telling Tina that when she went in there, she had all this, stuff, she had all this stuff in her mind that she wanted to do planned, but then that all kind of faded away. That kind of all faded away when she saw what, had become of him. And she just, like I said, came to the realization that this man, this skunk that made my life, made my mom's life, made my siblings' life, my brother mostly, life a living hell, he's just, what I see now is just a skunk, that was all talk, no walk. Or all talk, no you know what, COCK, if you will. That's how she looks at him. She looks at him. That's how she looks at him now, I should say. And basically, her making the decision of, what, I wanted to find a way to get my hands around you and basically rip you to shreds and take out years and decades of frustration and anger, but, now that I see you, you're not worth it. And for her to come and for her to tell Tina that the mindset she had was, I'm done with this drama, I'm going to move on and everything. I'm done with this drama. I'm not going to let this darkness that influence me, cloud my judgment. For her to bring that up and then ask Zigzag if that's maturity, I mean not Zigzag, but Tina, that if that's maturity, and Tina's answer of I think so. That answer right there from Tina Links, I think is a great response because with her saying I think it's maturity, it's her way of probably letting us in because in the last page, the father recognized her, from basically her days as being an on-screen porn star. So the father recognized her, but she had to basically be quick to deny, oh, no, I'm not who you think I am. My name's Tina. So for her to come out, and I guess kind of add to that lore by saying, to Zigzag, yeah, I think it's maturity. She's probably speaking from her own experience, like, yeah, I believe it is, because she's probably, had to mature herself by trying to basically deny, the truth about who she was in the past. Basically deny that she used to be this Desiree star on screen, and that she's now just Tina. She's moved on from that, at least attempted to. And again, I like that little, in my opinion, that little bit of world building, or character building for Tina right there by her saying that. By saying that, yeah, she thinks it is maturity, because I think she's saying that, answering that, I should say, or giving that answer from her own past experiences. But yeah, this is a very good epilogue page, to, I would consider, a major chapter in the story. I really like, what we got here with, Zigzag basically, like I said, acknowledging what she wanted to do, but then realize that why am I even going to waste my time, why am I going to waste my time physically, beating this person to death and all that when, they're not even worth it. They're just a shell of what they used to be, and that in reality, all she sees is someone that was just all walk, all talk, no walk, all talk, all talk, no COCK, if you know what I mean. So, I like this growth in her character because she's acknowledging that he was this cloud, this darkness that hung over her and probably influenced her, because she even said it in the visitation that, yeah, she knows there's some parts of him in her, a tiny bit that's good, but mostly negative, that she's trying to, control, mostly being the negative, because she knows what that negativity side that she inherits from him makes her do, or potentially could make her do in the future. And I think that's, I think that's a good, I think that's a good analogy from her, and confession from her, doing this story, that, hey, she's going to control what she inherits from him from the negative side of things, because she can see, personally, personally and basically, what his influence has made her do in the past. And I think at the beginning of this story, the very beginning, which has been a year in the making now, or been a year, a year ago, way over a year ago now, believe it or not, that she's realizing that what she did to Endora out of nowhere, that's a part of that influence. That's a part of that negative influence that she has to take control of. And I believe the further, she gets along, the further she gets along with this, you know, the further she gets along with this, the better she's going to be as a character. And I feel that again, when we get to the conclusion of the story, which, from my estimation, may not be till next spring. It might be at the end of the year at the earliest, but it may not be till next spring. My assumption, with how the story is going to end, as I've said before, is she's going to apologize for her actions towards Endora and maybe even to anybody else she felt like she was kind of pushing herself on without consenting with them, without asking them, hey, would you like me to give you a kiss on the lips, or is it okay if are you in the mood, and all that. She's going to take this character growth she's gotten during the story and apply it in the future. It's going to help her grow to where, even though she'll still be Zigzag, she'll still be the porn star, she'll still be this and that, she's going to be more respectable and consentable about, whether or not somebody wants to do a certain scene with someone or with her, or hey, if they get in the mood, if they probably want to, let a little bit of that stress out, or that, kind of, I guess you could say, kind of relieve some of that buzzness, if you will. She's going to be more respectful and consentable, if you will. But overall, I like this. I like the fact that she is acknowledging that she is maturing, she is growing, and that she's basically, like she told Tina here, I'm just done with this. I'm done with this drama. I'm going to move on. I'm not going to let this dark cloud hang over me anymore and influence me. So I like that, and can't wait to see what we do. And I can't, not we, but I can't wait to see what Eric does, I should say, in the next pages or so. Like I said, he might hold off on the next chapter, if you will, the next part of the story until next week, because Thanksgiving. But he might give us something that's Thanksgiving related, but this time not with Sabrina's family, but with Zigzag's family minus the father. So I could see that. I could see that being, like I said earlier, something to fill in the gap until next week. And then when we get to next week, we might see Tina and Zigzag heading back home and everything, and then that's when she might contact, or getting ready to head back home, and that's when she might contact Sabrina, and then that's when, she might get the answer of the phone being answered by Tabitha, and then that's when Sabrina might have to talk to her and say, yeah, this is what happened, and that's when Zigzag might get a bit of a chuckle, a laugh, like, I guess, some of the things that I feel negative actually were a bit of a positive, but, for other people, for other couples. So she might get a joke out of it, might get a chuckle out of it, but then apologize and say, hey, don't worry, I'll take care of stuff when I get back, So I could see that probably being the next part in the story, them heading back, but then, kind of communicating with Sabrina and finding out exactly what's going on and everything, why Tabitha's at the studios. So I could see that being the next part, but yeah, it does feel like we're getting close to the end. It does feel like we're getting close to the end here, but I can't say whether that's true or not. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll just have to wait and see what he has planned, what he has in store. That being Eric going forward, because again, the earliest I see the story ending is by the end of this year. The latest I see it ending, and I looked this up on my calendar on my tablet. The later I see this ending, or the latest I should say, could be in April of next year, which would mark basically about 2 years since the story started, and would mark around the time of us getting 100 pages, making this probably the longest story arc in recent memory. If you've been following the comics as long as I have and others have, but anyway, though, I like it. I like what's going on here. I like this little conclusion, and can't wait to see what the next part's going to be outside of maybe a little Thanksgiving moment between Zigzag and her family before her and Tina decide to head back. But anyway, though, that's all I can say, guys. So if I did sound like I was rambling or if I was a bit distracted, I got to go outside a little bit, put the garbage out, because we have neighbors that like to park kind of close to the mailbox and everything, or park close to where we put the garbage. And yeah, let's just say we've had some. When we first got here, we had a garbage guy that I don't think is working there anymore. We had a garbage guy get a little upset about, hey, why is this out here? Why is this there? And it's supposed to be here. And hopefully he's not there anymore. It doesn't feel like he is, but yeah, we don't want we don't want any more trouble when it comes to that person. So or to the garbage people anymore. So basically, I got to go out and put the garbage out in a bit, make sure nobody's in that space or prevent people from being in that space. But anyway, though, outside of that, like I said, I like the story here. I like what we got. I like this little epilogue conclusion to this current chapter arc, if you will, of the story, and can't wait to see, like I said, what Eric has in store following this week. Because, like I said, I think he might give us something Thanksgiving related with Zigzag's family, but then we'll see what the next part's going to be going forward. Whether it's a conclusion, basically like the final part, the final act, or he's just going to hold off until maybe April of next year, giving us a proper 100-page story. But we'll see. We'll see. I still believe we might get a Fur After Dark spinoff. I really do. But he's going to wait till the story's over to probably bring that to fruition. But I do believe we're going to get a spinoff. I do believe we're going to get one between Zigzag and Tina at the hotel, or we might get one with Endora and her husband, or we might get one with Endora and Zigzag, because again, I still feel that the way the story's going to end is Zigzag's going to get a taste of her own medicine by Endora kissing her, and then Endora probably being okay with the idea of, hey, whenever you do feel like getting in the mood, I'll let my husband know, or, so he can join in, or I'll just let him know, hey, I'm going to go out and have a little fun with Zig, I've got a feeling we might get something like that. Not saying we will, but that's just me speculating and theorizing, as to what, how the story will end when it does. But anyway, though, guys, that's all I can really say on it. And again, I know, like I said, I know I sound like I rambled and all that. I do apologize. But let me know what your thoughts are. Comment down below if you haven't already in the live chat what your thoughts are on the story so far. If you've been following it, what do you think is going to happen next? How do you think it will end? And do you think we will get a Fur After Dark story spin-off after the story's done with either Tina and Zigzag, Endora and her husband, or Endora and Zigzag? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Again, like I said, if you haven't already in the live chat. And guys, super thanks will be open if you want to help donate to the channel. If you didn't do so with the super chats during this video premiere, or during the video premiere, I should say, you can still do so with the super thanks and the affiliated programs with the products listed below or on the side, depending on how you watch this. You can help me out and help the store brand out as well, with whatever items you want to pick up and everything for the holiday season. But guys, that's all I'm going to say for now. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. And until next time, I got to go take out the garbage. I will talk to y'all later. God bless. Take care.